And now, the Lowe Post.
Welcome to the Lowe Post podcast, and it's Friday, and we are headed toward an epic weekend of NBA basketball, even if it is epically ugly NBA basketball. The greatest player in the world faces elimination in, I don't even know what time it is, like 6 hours, I think, and the anointed from the beginning champions face elimination on Saturday. Chris Paul is not playing. Andre Iguodala is maybe playing. Klay Thompson is maybe banged up. And I can't even keep track of everything that's happening. And to join us is someone who has been around the Warriors since before they were the Warriors. The great Marcus Thompson, columnist at The Athletic, author of Golden, The Miraculous Rise of Steph Curry, a book I like so much I bought it twice when I left my original copy in a hotel room and they couldn't find it. Marcus, you got a lot of sleep last night, I bet, didn't you?
You know, man, I got a whole 2 hours, and then I sat on a plane next to a crying baby.
Oh, man. Oh.
This is playoff life, right? This is what we do. This is the grind. I remember when my season was over annually in April.
You wrote a piece off last night's game. I mean, they're just, it's already like 8 to 12 hours. I don't know. It's a lot of hours ago it ended. And there's so much to talk about, whether it's Chris Paul's injury, the Quinn Cook shot, the Steph Curry shot, Draymond falling over at the end of the game, and KD not trusting his teammates, and blah, blah, blah. But you have this scene like I said, I wanted to talk to you today specifically because I do feel like of all the people that cover this team, you actually know the guys on the team the best. And you had this scene from the locker room, and you've been there for all these games. You know, you talk about how the locker room last night was a confident, calm, almost not, happy is not the right word, but a confident locker room. You contrast it with when they went down 3-1 to the Thunder in 2016. After Game 4, the locker room was like awake. You called it so quiet you could hear the refrigerator humming over everything. And you have this scene from last night when I think Draymond says to Steph, or Steph says to Draymond, you know what this series reminds me of? And the other one says, what? And they say, it reminds me of Memphis, by which they mean Memphis in 2015 when they were down 2-1 and came back to win. And so my question for you is, are they actually serious? Like, this is not comparable to Memphis.
I think I thought that was an odd play too, but here's what I think it is. I think they feel like they can win this and they're going to win this, so they're associating with a memory that is much more confident, right? I think when they were down 3-1 to Oklahoma City, they really didn't know. They didn't know. They had no idea. And I don't think they said that series because they don't feel like they feel like they know. You know what I'm saying? To compare this to Oklahoma City, it got rejected a couple of times when I brought it up, would be to say we don't really have any answers. We don't know what to do. Like, that's where they were then. So Memphis, like in hindsight especially, they're like, yeah, a couple tweaks here. We knew we were a better team. We just had to figure out how to execute and show that. I think that's the correlation. But after the game, like, it was crazy too because, that's 2 straight close game, heartbreaker, like kind of collapse type games. So, I expected for them to be in there like, we're really choking away our season. And they were like mad. Like Klay Thompson is like getting his food. They got the spread afterwards, and he's getting his food, and he's like angry. And he's like, man, I want to play right now. Like, I wish we could play tomorrow. Like, he was like, man, like, I can't believe this. It was weird, that scene afterwards.
Do we have any idea how Klay is? Because even people who are close to Klay are like, yeah, he just says he's fine. He doesn't really tell us anything. Like, do we know? I mean, I know the team is a little worried about him, but he looked at times pretty okay last night. Is he fine? Do we know?
Yeah, Klay is perennially fine, right? Like, Klay's like arm could be hanging off. He's like, I'm good. It's my left arm. I just need my right one. But I think he's fine. I think he's moving fine. He is banged up, but I think what he does, his injury isn't that bad. He's not like cutting. He's not he's not really doing the back doors and stuff. He's not doing the sharp cuts off the ball. So maybe that's where you can see some of the limitations he has. But I think overall, in Clay's world, if his shot is fine, he's fine. And whatever he's dealing with has nothing to do with his shot. So he's like, I'm good. Let's go.
When they're in the locker room discussing how this allegedly reminds them of Memphis, which I reject as a comparison and think they're being crazy, are they talking about, wow, Chris looks really hurt, or asking, hey, has anyone heard how serious this is, or we think it's serious? Like, what do they know right after the game, or think right after the game about Chris Paul's status?
Everybody was asking, like, is it bad? That was kind of the question. What's the latest? Has anybody heard, like, what's going on with Paul? Because they know he wasn't on the court he didn't get back on defense. Like, they knew the plan actually was to attack Paul. Like, they thought they could break him down. They thought he couldn't endure, and they were like, all right, we're just going to post you with KD, and we're going to turn up the defense on you, and eventually you will get too tired and you will make all the mistakes. So they were kind of going for it. But afterwards, they were like, well, is he hurt? Is it bad? Do you know? And I remember asking KD, because I told KD, I was like, man, I really hope Chris Paul can play. I feel like I deserve a good series. And he shook his head. He was like, man, I don't even want to think about, like, him being hurt. He's like, nah. So I think they were in a little bit of, like, they were doing reconnaissance after the game. I don't think they knew fully yet what was going on.
Well, obviously, he's already out for Game 6. And by the way, I'm going to have a couple rants here as we go. One of them is I've seen this suggested by like 4 very smart people on Twitter that the Rockets should just sit James Harden in Game 6 and go all in on Game 7, rest him for Game 7 because they have no chance without Paul anyway in Oracle. It's just like, this is... When people make fun of analytics people, and you know I love analytics people, I'm like analytics adjacent. Like, this is what they're talking about. That's absolute like lunacy. It's lunacy. You do not ever punt a playoff game. James Harden has like a finite number of 50-point games in him. And they may need a game like that if Chris can't play at all in this series. Eric Gordon has a finite number of like games where he just randomly hits 8 threes, and oh my God, were they getting? They got whatever they wanted in the first half. They could have been up 15. You need to maximize the number of times James Harden has a chance to score 50 points, even if doing so makes him like 5% more tired for Game 7. This is one of those ideas that if Mike D'Antoni came out today and said, you know what, we're just going to sit everybody in Game 6. The Rockets might fire him on the spot. It's the craziest idea. It's just crazy. I'm sorry, it's crazy.
And what if like they said that was the plan, and James Harden said, "Oh, okay, that's cool, let's do it." Then we kill him for not wanting to play, right? For not having the heart to go out there and buckle up and go play with tired or whatever, and finger and flu like Kobe played with a broken hand and Michael Jordan played with the flu. Like he couldn't even sign off on that. Like he would have to say, no, I'm playing no matter what. That's a crazy that's an oxymoronic idea to throw out there because it's a no-win no matter what. There's no way James Harden sits out this game. Like he just couldn't do it. And speaking of, just another thing you said, I don't remember what it was, brought this up in my brain. Like, the Warriors inspire very weird and sometimes contradictory analysis in the same people, and it's starting to annoy me. So, like, when they win, it's, well, this is the most dominant team of all time. Everyone is helpless against them. They're too good. And when they lose, it's like, they made mistakes. They choked it away. They're not running their offense and blah, blah, blah. The other team is really good. Like, it drives me crazy, Zach. I don't even get it. Like, why are we disrespecting the Rockets? Like, look, to be honest, I didn't think the Rockets had this in them. I didn't. I thought they would chuck threes and they didn't go in. They wouldn't play defense. I mean, this team has shown more heart and more toughness and more grit than I thought they had, than the Warriors thought they had. Like, that's to a man, you go around asking Warriors in the locker room, they're like, oh, yeah, this team got some heart. Like, they came to play. And whatever this level of respect they have for the Rockets, was not there before. It was not there on the season. It was not there when Rockets had the number 1 seed. The Rockets have taken this. So it's ridiculous to think like the Warriors are just choking this away. They're not getting 300 passes because like Gerald Green is coming off the bench with his hair on fire, right? Like because Eric Gordon is playing lights out ball pressure man defense. Man, they've shown what Cleveland showed in 2016. Because even if somehow these circumstances are creating, a favorable advantage for the Rockets, which is what happened with Cleveland, like all these circumstances that happen, you still got to take that. Like Kyrie still still have to hit that shot, and Kevin Love still has to play that defense. J.R. Smith still has to play that defense, and the Rockets smell blood, and they're playing almost out of their minds on defense in the same way Cleveland did. And to make this, I mean, it is a referendum on the Warriors if they don't win it, but it's also because, hey, maybe we just underestimated the greatness of the other great teams, and top-heavy, super talented rosters do have flaws that can be exploited.
Well, it's like everyone keeps, and I've done it too, citing these stats about how often the Warriors are isolating, and you just cited the passing stats, and we all know them. They isolated like 11 times per 100 possessions in the regular season, and they're at almost 30 in this series, a rate that would have led the entire NBA. It's completely out of character for them, and there is some recognition that Houston has something to do with that. All the switching is taking away their fancy back cuts, their pick and rolls, all the stuff that isn't isolation is being taken away. Even Houston's transition defense, although it's been a little scattershot, they've paid more attention to it than they normally do. And so people recognize that, but it feels like they're sort of parceling it like it's like 40% the Rockets and like 60% the Warriors, just kind of deciding like, yeah, we're going to isolate. Like that's kind of just what we're going to do. We're just not going to run our offense because we're lazy or tired or not mentally focused. Maybe it's 80% what Houston is doing and 20% the Warriors being taken out of rhythm because of what Houston is doing. Whatever it is, the blame or credit is not being parceled out enough to look at Houston and like, you think it's easy to just switch and switch and switch and re-switch. Like, that stuff is so hard, not only physically,
especially off the ball,
but mentally, to stay that focused over and over and over again. And you know what? People are right, including you, that on a lot of possessions, the Warriors don't have the kind of verve that they usually have. Like, there are possessions where KD dribbles up top, like nobody's moving, or no one on the weak side is moving. That's uncommon for the Warriors. But part of the reason that's happening is because, I mean, this is all a cycle. These players are human. This is not a machine that you plug in and all the parts move around in the same way every time. When a defense starts to take things away from you, you kind of get out of character and a little bit out of rhythm, and you kind of have to decide, like, what's the best way to go about things. And they've had difficulty navigating that, and the Rockets are playing awesome defense.
Yeah, we know, right, like, as great as these Warriors are, the type of, like, talent they are, like, physicality gets them off their game. It's always been that, right? It was that in Memphis, and they had to figure out how to overcome it in 2015. Cleveland did it. Just slow it down, rough them up. You can make them uncomfortable, and that's what Houston's doing. If Durant catches the ball by half court another time, right, like every possession, and he's gotten to the point where just to get a little space, he'll get the ball on the wing, and just to get a little space, he'll do like Chris Paul and dribble out to half court.
He almost committed a backcourt violation. He almost committed a backcourt violation last night.
That's all. Like, they're physically pushing him out there, and it just makes him uncomfortable. They're posting him up, and initially he started like making a strong move to get to the rim, but it's all game. They're just being physical with him. And towards the end, he started taking fadeaways again. It just takes a different level to be able to say, all right, I'm going to stick with it. And I don't think they've been in this situation enough before. It's not like LeBron, where this is like number 8. And remember in 2011 when they did this to me, and he could recall on these moments where Warriors don't have that. They blitz teams. They haven't had a tough series since the 2016 finals. And I think this is why they're confident after the game. I think it's because they're like, yeah, all right, we finally got a groove with what they're doing. Like, we feel uncomfortable. And for a while there, it was like it's kind of scattered and hectic. But all right, we kind of got our bearings now under this because I don't think they felt this since they've gotten KD. And you could see it in KD a little bit. The Rockets are like, man, like Gerald Green, like this is for Houston, right? He's out there like he's having a pep talk with Juvenile every game, and he's just coming in there. It's like he's like nuts. He's like pressing the ball, taking NBA Jam threes. Like nobody's played the Warriors like this, not since they got KD. Not even LeBron did this to the Warriors.
And everyone's, when people are looking for self-inflicted wounds, everyone, the smart fans generally go to like, well, Steph needs the ball more. Why don't they put Steph on the ball more? All they're doing is posting up Kevin Durant. And that makes me angry for a couple of reasons. But number one, like there's this outcry all the time for the Steph KD pick and roll. You know how many Steph KD pick and rolls they're running in this series? Almost the exact same number they ran in the regular season. Now you could argue that's not enough, but they're doing it and it isn't working. And part of the reason it isn't working is we'll get to it, but part of the reason is like they'll post KD on Chris Paul, and if they have, 2 or 3 non-shooters on the floor, which they do a frightening amount of time, like the Rockets aren't even guarding those dudes. There's 3 guys right around Kevin Durant. He just can't. It's not like he can just sort of voluntarily go and run over 3 guys and dunk. That's not how it works. They're playing really good defense, and all the turnover thing. Guess who has the lower turnover rate in this series? The Warriors. They're not. There have been a couple games where they've had some sloppy turnovers, including last night, but they're not losing because of some horrendous turnover rate. The other thing about KD, this is connected to this. When KD plays like he did in Game 1 and scores 37 or whatever and makes all the isolation shots, oh man, KD ruined the NBA.
He's unstoppable, right?
Warriors are unbeatable. Then KD goes 8 of 22, and it's like, KD's a problem. KD's isolations are ruining the Warriors. It's the same shots. The difference is like he makes 4 more or 4 fewer of them. It's the same shots. Now, there is a happy medium in there where they find the right volume of those shots and the right ways to get to them and the right movements around them. But it's like the game-to-game swings from KD ruin the NBA to KD ruin the Warriors. It's like it's insane.
I think a lot of this, too, is just part of the Warriors just being the Warriors, and people just love to either, shower them with praise and adoration or just hate everything they do, right? And they are the lightning rod team. They're the Bulls of the 90s, right, where no matter what happened, it's somehow all about them. But I think what we've seen with Kevin Durant is how a series works, right? He did. They had PJ Tucker on him in Game 1, and they thought the physicality of PJ Tucker would be something, but he just couldn't contest the shots. So all those shots, they were smooth, clean shots. So they put Trevor Ariza on them, and they're not there. Like it's a little bit harder, and we've seen Kevin Durant have a harder time getting clean looks because of what the Rockets are doing. My only thing with the Warriors and with Kerr is I think that there's a little bit of arrogance here. They're saying, we can do this because we know we can do it, so let's just do it. But it's not really that. It's like, okay, I don't know, I feel like they're putting Kevin Durant in a position to fail because it's Kevin Durant, he can get a shot off of anybody. And it's like, really, yeah, he can get it off, but it's not really working. So maybe you should put him in a different situation to get his shots off, because all they're doing is it's exactly like you said. They're posting Chris Paul, but he's not just going against Chris Paul. James Harden is not even leaving the paint. It's really 3-second violation, but they're not calling that. But he's not even leaving the paint. He's just staying in the paint because he's guarding Draymond, right? And he's like whatever, go ahead, Draymond.
Well, the other thing they're doing is to get to some of those KD post ups. They're running this Curry pick and roll where Draymond and KD set consecutive staggered screens for him, and the Rockets have figured out, well, if all those bodies are that close together, we can just Chris Paul doesn't have to switch on to KD. Somebody else can do it. One of the nearby defenders can do it. Ariza can stay on him. Like if they just take Draymond out of the play, put him on the other side of the floor, and just make it a pure 2-man game, they might have better luck just getting the initial matchup. Like if you watch some of those plays, Paul will switch on to KD for a second and Ariza will grab him and take him out because there's just too many bodies around. But if you put Draymond, if you put Draymond on the other side of the floor, to your point, they're not going to guard him. And one of the things I thought KD, everyone's beating him up because of his assist numbers when they lose. Did he have 1 or 0 last night? I can't remember. I believe he had 0. I thought last night he actually made an effort, as he has in other games, to drive one-on-one against Harden, or drive one-on-one against whoever was on him when he got the ball up top, and try and drive and kick. The problem is, he's having trouble gaining separation against Harden sometimes, which is a little surprising. And B, the help defense is fantastic. Like, PJ Tucker is doing a really good Draymond Green impression. He's not guarding non-shooters. He's in the lane. He's in the right spots. Like, KD can't get to the rim.
And he's timing, like PJ Tucker, like, it's not that he's doubling, like, he's waiting until KD makes his move, and then boom, he's like blitzing with the help. And that's not KD's not like a Hakeem Olajuwon, right? Like, he's not a poster who's like going to turn around and in a split second kind of read the floor. He's just got to shoot. That's what he does. So that's why I think they're putting him in a tough position, because this is really not his game. Like, he can do it, but it's not his game. And when Clay is covered and when Steph is covered, who is he passing to anyway? Like, the answer might be Quinn Cook or Nick Young, and that's a win for the Rockets. I thought he was doing great, getting to the rim, like forcing his way to the rim, but then they started bringing the help. So at that point, now they're trying to work this inside-outside game with KD as the post. I just don't feel like that's his game. And I think we saw him be a little bit uncomfortable in that situation and feel like after the game, you could tell he felt like, I struggled out there. You know, this I didn't feel good about his performance. And I think that's because of the spots he were in. I'm with you. Just go KD, Steph, because really against these type of defenses, and we're seeing Houston do it, you need a guy who can handle the ball. Like, that's a premium, like, attribute. You got to be able to handle the ball, and you have to be able to improvise on these switching defenses. Guys like Clay, even Draymond to an extent, are like, one move, boom. I gotta have what I'm going to do in this one move. And if I don't, I either need to shoot or kick it out. And that doesn't work in this. You need to be able to improvise on the fly. You need to have a feel for the game. And, like, really, to be honest, Steph is the guy who can do that. And KD, but they're not doing that. They're relying on the offense instead of on their talent. And that's the part that's a little tricky. Houston is saying, hey, we're just going to talent. It's all talent, right? It's all the ability of Chris Paul to make shots, of James Harden to do his thing. And that's what we got. Like, we have talent. And the Warriors are like, nah, we have sets, right? We have philosophies. And sometimes it just comes down to, like, look, man, at some point Steph is just like, he's better than Eric Gordon. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, and, you know, he's better than Chris Paul. Like, they're in the same category, you know, but you go one, if you put them two together, Steph Curry is just going to be able to do greater things. Like, they sometimes make it hard on themselves. But, you know, Steve Kerr just reminds me of Denzel Washington and what was it, Remember the Titans, right? He's like, man, we got 6 plays. It's like Novocaine. Keep running them, they always work, right? Like, that's how he thinks. Like, it's like, look, if we execute this right, it's going to work. And usually he's right. Like, 99% of the time he's right. And he might even be right now, right? Where in 2 games I'll be like, all right, Steve, I got it. You're right. But
well, he is right.
He is right. No question.
He is right in the sense that there are 7 to 10 possessions in every one of these games where, because they keep moving and they move with purpose, the Rockets mess up and they get an open three or an open, like, that works, but it's like the mix of that and the trigger point with the ball is something is just off with it. And I do think some of that is the Rockets and some of that is the Warriors. But to your point, like, the offense looked best last night when Steph had the ball. And they found something in the Steph, Klay Thompson pick and roll, which is like even more than Steph KD is. They're sort of like, when nothing else is working, they go to that. And they rarely do it. Now, the Rockets are going to be ready for that now. They got confused by it. They blew some switches. They didn't know what to do, and they got open look. Now they're going to be ready for it. But to your point, I think you nailed it talking about the ball handling. One of the ways to beat switches is to confuse the defense about what exactly is coming when two offensive players come together. And with the Warriors, we always talk about that with the off-ball cutting, the split screens when two guys off the ball come together and come apart, and how they fake this way and slip that way, and that confuses the switches. Steph is the one guy they have who can do that with the ball. And there was one pick and roll he ran, I think it was actually with David West, where West disguised the direction of the screen. Like he came up flat, like with his back to the basket, so they couldn't tell which way he was going to flip. And then Steph had like a couple of little Steph fake dribbles into the screen where they couldn't tell which way the screen was going and which way Steph was going. And they got, I believe Steph crossed up Capella and got a layup out of it. That's the stuff only he can do. Like KD doesn't have that handle. KD's handle is big and loping and tall and a little and a little
like
bit
him, right?
yeah, it's a little bit mechanical. Like Steph has that handle, and I'd like they need to shift like 20% of the offense to that. And you know, who screens for him, I don't know, because one of the problems with the Warriors is even though they have 17 centers, they don't really have a guy who's like a good, reliable dive to the rim. I can put pressure because of my finishing ability center. Like Draymond puts pressure with his passing. Bell is going to be that player and threw a really nice pass on the move last night. He's just not ready. JaVale is in theory that player, but he just, I don't even know where JaVale is. So it's not as easy as just like run, spread, pick and roll with the Warriors. That's just not how they're built. But I agree with you. Like Steph's handle is not as tapped as it should be in this series. They need to tap it more.
And, I think this is where they miss Iguodala, too, because part of it is, like, when you watch it, like, especially KD at the top. I just think KD is uncomfortable with smaller guys pressing up on him because of his handle, right? He's so tall that his dribble is so high that he knows, like, I got to be tight with my dribble because they'll take the ball. And especially after game, it's hard to pick them at half court. It sounds great in theory. Give the ball to KD, go make a play. But these smaller guys, it's tough to dribble against these guys. And if that's Chris Paul, you really don't want to do it. So I think there's a little hesitancy and a little, like, calculation with him up there and how he's dribbling. But they need somebody who can just stand up there and survey and let the action unfold and just be comfortable. And they don't really have that guy. Iguodala is that guy. He's the guy who could say, I'm just going to be at the top, and nobody's going to take the ball from me. And you can let this action happen. You can run this, and, okay, that didn't work, and I come back through and set another screen, another guy comes. But the pressure of Houston is so, like, relentless. It's pushing your offense so far out. And also, like, it's pressure, like, they're pressuring the ball handler. The ball handler is just uncomfortable. So now it's like, all right, I got to make a decision here. And we can't wait for that third cut, right, or that second screen. So the first one didn't work. Let's make a move, right? Let's do it. The only other player who could do it, I think, and it depends on who they put on him, is Draymond. Because at least now if he has the ball, you kind of have to guard him. Problem is, too, same thing. Like you put Chris Paul on him. Now that dribbling at the top, while Steph and Clay are trying to get over off the ball, now that becomes a little bit more tenuous. Iguodala is there. I got this. Nobody's going to take the ball from me, and we're going to be able to run our action. But not having him is leaving them stuck. And the pressure of Houston is really making it hard for them to do that 10 seconds of cutting and back cutting and screen and all that. They probably got 4 before it's like,
yeah.
At the time, like, let's do something here.
I'm glad you brought up Iguodala for 2 reasons. Number one, for all the talk today about KD being 8 of 22 and having 2 bad shooting games in a row and the rhythm of the offense and all that, a lot of this series comes down to Sean Livingston has 6 points combined in the last 2 games. Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala combined for the series are 2 of 13 from 3. That's a lot of the series right there. And some of that is Andre being out, obviously, but like they just haven't gotten enough from Livingston. And Iggy hasn't been there, and Draymond hasn't hit a 3 basically until crunch time last night, which we'll talk about.
Until like the biggest 3 of the night, right?
Yeah. So look, there are not many bigger Andre Iguodala fanboys than me. I love Andre Iguodala. Everything I love about basketball and role players and hoops IQ and unselfishness and all that's Andre. I love Andre. And I get that he's an essential part of their team, in part because they have all these centers who can't play in this matchup, in part because Nick Young has been a disaster and unplayable to the point that Quinn Cook was on the floor late in the game. And so they just don't, losing a wing, no matter who it is, out of their rotation is very hard for them. So I get all of that. And he was guarding Harden. He's a great defensive player. I get it. They still have 4 all-stars. They still, at various points
3, all-time great scorers.
And at various points over the last 2 years, KD and Steph have been something like consensus number 2 and 3 in the league at various points over the last 3 or 4 years. There's an annual, is KD actually better than LeBron debate. And can we, if they lose this series, can we just end that forever? LeBron is looking at this. LeBron is looking at this Warriors team and being like, "Oh, they're complaining that they're banged up. All right, let me pass to Jordan Clarkson again and see if he can help me out. Kyle Korver is my third option right now." They have 4 all-stars, and if 2 of these guys have been in the conversation for the second and third best players in the league, they need to be able to win one of these last 2 games. And I don't want to hear any whining about Andre Iguodala. They have the talent to win these games. And if Chris Paul doesn't play the rest of the series, I really don't want to hear any whining, because if he doesn't play, they should win. Period. I don't care where the games are. If he does not play, Golden State should win the series and go on to the finals, and then God only knows what happens there.
They should win the series if he does play. They should win the series if he never got hurt. That's the bottom line. The truth is, Eric Gordon is outplaying Klay Thompson. That's just
Eric was great.
When you look at, Eric Gordon is outplaying Klay Thompson, and even if you could say between Harden and CP and Steph and KD, we could parse out which is playing better, which is not. Harden hasn't been good the last few games, but even those 2 are kind of a wash. It's coming down to Klay Thompson being outplayed by Eric Gordon, right? That's what it is. And Draymond, getting outplayed by the combination of Capella, PJ Tucker, that's what it is. And I'm with you 1,000%. Iguodala, it hurts. It kills you. It's the reason you have Kevon Looney and David West 30 feet from the basket trying to guard Chris Paul, right? In space. Right? That's a bad setup. That's an unfortunate setup. That's why
I get physically worried whenever Kevon Looney is guarding James Harden at the 3-point arc. And all things considered, he's done okay. He's done much better on CP than Harden, but Harden is just so mean and physical, and the potential of a pratfall is so much higher. I get worried for Kevon Looney.
Right. He can end up Wesley Johnson easy.
Yeah, it could get ugly.
It could get ugly. But they've got to win those matchups. It's just, and some of it is I don't know. It was unbelievable to me last night. I've been watching Steph his whole career, and I know Steph, and he's always been like this. It's he's such a unique star. There's just sometimes in these games where there's no way somebody else is giving up the ball. You pick a name, pick another star, put his name in there, and in the moment, Steph runs the offense. And it's what? What? It's just so. It's one of the most fascinating things about this Warriors team and about this quote unquote dynasty that they have is how in these moments like this he becomes this Davidson trust, commitment, care, right? McKillop's greatest disciple, and it's all about running the offense and being unselfish and doing what the game plan says and playing basketball the right way. He's better than that, I think. He's a guy who you could say, all right, man, this isn't working, and I've given it a try, right? I've run it like you said, but all right, now it's time for me to do my thing. And he won't violate what the plan is. He won't be that guy. So it's just interesting. So in the end, you almost end up not getting 4 All-Stars. And Draymond is an All-Star because of
You almost you cut out for a second there. You almost don't end up getting what?
You almost don't really end up getting 4 All-Stars because you don't get these guys at their peak. You don't get them doing what they do best. And you get Steph trying to use his gravity and draw defenders away, but it's not working against Houston because they're just switching anyway off the ball brilliantly, actually. So it's almost like at some point it's like, hey, like in the third quarter of game 3, I think it was, it's like, all right, at some point Steph's got to Steph. And I think that might be coming, but in some ways they kind of tie their own hands and they don't let their stars be stars because it's about like strength in numbers and it's about like trying to wear down the other team. And in the end, like it's just got like just like in game 1, like let KD cook. You just don't get that sometimes with the Warriors. They kind of get in their own way in that sense. So it's not 4 All-Stars against the other 2 All-Stars. It's a really good ball screener and off ball mover against right like against the 2 All-Stars for Houston.
What did you think of Quinn Cook's 3 with 42 seconds left in the game, down 1 off the pass from Draymond?
I thought he should have shot it. I actually, you know what I thought? This is like the Jim Barnett in me, right? Because I grew up listening to Jim Barnett. I thought he should have taken, because he has so much space, taking that 2 dribbles in and taking the comfortable rhythm pull-up.
Oh, interesting.
That's his shot. Like, that's his shot. More than, like, once he fumbled the ball, too, on the catch, like, his shot is that boom, boom, pull-up, shoot, right? And nobody was there, and maybe he kind of dribbles to the defense a little bit, but in that situation, and you're Quinn Cook, and this moment, like, you never would have imagined a month ago, right? Like, maybe you do something that you're more comfortable doing, but I don't have a problem with him taking a shot. If it was me, I might rather Nick Young in the game because I don't think Nick Young would even feel the moment, and it might be a disaster, but it might not be. But you could tell Quinn Cook felt the moment, but I think it was great that he took the shot because that says something about a player. When you're going to take that shot, you're not going to I don't think Andre Iguodala takes that shot. Sometimes I've seen him pass it up before because, if you're not comfortable with your shot, you probably won't take it. Sean Livingston is not taking that shot. But Quinn Cook is like, all right, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. So my only thing was like, hey, maybe you take 1-2 dribbles, take that mid-range pull-up. That's your shot. And because you're only down 1 anyway, you don't need a 3. But that's some old-school 90s basketball, right? I know it. I know it is. Like, why go for 3 when you only need a 2? I know it. I got it. I get it.
I'm not sure. I'm not convinced Nick Young realizes that this is the conference finals, to your point about whether he feels the moment. I'm not sure if he knows how the playoff structure, if there are rounds and why they keep playing the same opponent over and over again.
That's why he might have made the shot, though.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think, I guess the more pertinent question is, do you think Draymond should have passed him the ball?
Yes. I mean, this is all about being the Warriors, right? If the Warriors are going to be the Warriors. If there's one guy who I don't think should pass the ball, it's not Draymond, right? I think you got to hit the open man, right? Like, that's who they are. And that's as much as, I think Steph should, go do what LeBron does. Like, the Warriors are who they are because they don't do that. So it's the open man. And, here's what's going to happen. And it's going to be and this team is going to say, I told you so. And I'll be like, man, you're the luckiest dude in the world. Quinn Cook is going to get another open shot at some point, and he'll make it. And they'll say, it's because we believed in him in Houston in Game 5. That's how it works out with the Warriors. It's 90% of the time, except for the one time, it's the fairy tale ending of we played together, and it's about all 15 guys. We've been on Steve Kerr about this for 4 years. Like, why are you playing these guys at the end? And that guy has a big game, and it's like, oh, okay, this says, this is why I did that, right? This is what it's all about. And that's what's going to happen. And everybody who questioned Quinn Cook being in that moment will look like an idiot.
That's it's like Anderson Varejão's 90 seconds of glory in Game 7 of the Thunder series 2 years ago. I had no problem with any of it. I couldn't, in fact, so I'm not on Twitter during these games. So I just can't be, I can't, my brain isn't smart enough to do 2 things at once.
Can't do it.
I just can't do it. And so I was surprised.
You don't need the pollution in your brain while you're watching the game. That's what you don't need. Yeah,
I was surprised to see any hand wringing over this because Quinn Cook was wide open. Like, that's what he's on the floor to do, is take that shot. And Draymond, like, it looked like if you freeze it at some point, it looks like Draymond has, like, maybe a lane to the basket. But, like, the NBA doesn't work in, like, freeze frame. That's not how it is. PJ Tucker was not only, he was there. He was meeting Draymond at the dotted line way before the restricted area. Now, Draymond had slowed down just a little bit to survey the floor. He was still going pretty fast, but he wasn't like head down, top gear, flying at the backboard Draymond. If he stays in that gear the entire time, he's got, and just keeps going left, he's got some floater thing against a full speed challenge from PJ Tucker. It's not going to be a layup. Like I saw a lot of people saying he's going to get a layup. It's not going to be a layup. And Draymond is not a great finisher. I don't have a lot of confidence in that shot going in. I thought Quinn Cook's shot was fine. I thought him being in the game for Livingston was fine for exactly that reason. However, on the Draymond 3 you mentioned earlier, with a minute and 15 to go, that was off a pass from Quinn Cook. And Quinn Cook was wide open off a pass from KD. And if you look at that, the pass is on its way to Quinn Cook. It's about to hit his hands. He's already looking at Draymond. Like, he wanted no part of that three-point shot from the left wing. He touched it over to Draymond. So, like, you could see, to your point, that he felt the moment. Like, you know, maybe he's just making the right play. Maybe he thinks I'm going to give it to a veteran. I don't know. But he was wide open. Somebody was going to close on him. I think it was Ariza, but he had time. He didn't even, like, there was not even a thought in his head of maybe shooting the shot.
At that point, too. He was 0 for 2 on wide open threes at that point. The only thing with the Draymond, and this is total, like, hindsight, like watching the tape, is like Steph is curling kind of behind him and gets a little space at the top, but it would have required him like ignoring the pass and like almost like stalling for another second while Steph gets free. I think the ideal in that situation is you kick it out to Quinn Cook, a hard closeout, or maybe the guy that's chasing Steph goes over to the open guy, and then you hit, and, you know, Quinn Cook makes the extra pass and stuff. But otherwise, like, he's on the court, this is what he does. It's a wide open shot. The Warriors they've been saying this for 4 years. We pass up good shots for great shots. Maybe Draymond could have gotten a good shot, but that's a great shot. And this is who Draymond is, too. Like, this is not even new. I've seen Draymond, like, come off the pick and roll with Steph and going 4-on-3 and dump a nice bounce pass in the pocket to Zaza Pachulia. It's like, dude, he's not going to finish that. But he's open, right? And they're like, he's open. If he's on the court and he's open, we got to give him the ball. Like, the Warriors can't operate by not passing to open guys. Like, it almost violates the integrity of who they are. It's like taking away the First Amendment of the Constitution, right? They got to pass to open guys. Now, maybe you say, why is Quinn Cook in the game? That's the only argument you have. Why is he in the game? But if he's in the game and he's that open, you're passing the ball, and he's got to take that shot. There's nothing really else you can do about it. You know, next time it'll happen again. They'll pass on the ball. He'll probably take the shot. And, you know, if he makes it, this will be all part of the great story of why the Warriors have ruined the world.
Here's a little insider travel secret. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. That's why there's Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight partners with awesome hotels to help them fill their unsold rooms, which means you get incredible deals. And even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book up to a week in advance and up to 100 days in advance in top destinations. So download the Hotel Tonight app to start scoring better deals at better hotels now.
Yeah, Curry was curling open. I just don't know that Draymond could have seen him. And by the time that Curry yells or whatever, like Harden, again, this is like a freeze frame thing. If you freeze it, Curry's wide open. Harden's behind the plays, like at the foul line, maybe even a little below it. If that pass happens, while that pass is in the air, Harden is going to be running at Curry. It's not like nothing's going to happen. That's going to be a contested three. Now, it's still a good shot, but the Quinn Cook shot was fine. And here's my rule. My rule is, if he makes that shot, everyone is sitting here talking about what a great play Draymond, the same people or at least some portion of those people who thought it was a weak play or the wrong play, at least some portion of them are saying, what a great play by Draymond and what a wonderful story. Steve Kerr trusting Quinn Cook in a big moment. So if you are going to say it was a bad play if the shot misses and a good play if the shot goes in, you are disqualified. That's not how it works. It's either a good play because it's a good play or a bad play because it's a bad play. So I was fine with it.
You should be fined, actually. If that's how you would do it, you should have to pay a fine of some sort, community service or something. Those people, they have to be stopped.
No,
like
so
even last night, like Steph, they were like, "Oh, I was thinking that too." Like, Steph, why are you giving up the ball? But if Draymond goes and creates this situation in transition, like, "Oh man, Warriors are so smart, so can't ref Steph." Like, if he would have done it, it's like, "Oh man, look how unselfish they are." Yeah, those people need to be fined.
Now he's out. Quinn Cook is out there because Livingston is a non-shooter, and Nick Young just hasn't worked out. Now let's talk about Nick Young. They used the mid-level exception, or their version of it, the mini mid-level, for $5.2 million 1 year to sign Nick Young. He came into camp out of shape. They went to China this year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he was out of shape in China. I think even Kerr said it publicly. He's not in great shape. Somebody said he's not in great shape. But what happened? Why has there been? Is there still consternation within the team about the Nick Young experience? I don't understand how you. I don't know. It just seems like from not even day one, like day -1. It just hasn't worked. And he's had a couple games and a couple quarters here or there because he shoots and he's Nick Young. He's a good shooter. Are they? I mean, I assume there's no chance he's going back there next year, right?
Oh yeah, I don't. That's not happening. It can't happen. It can't happen at this point. They have one chip to go and revitalize this bench, and they can't bring back 78 centers either. So they're gonna have to go and get a player, and their one chip is their version of the MLE. So, you know what? I've talked to Nick Young a lot this year, and there's this idea about like a championship locker room, right, and a championship pedigree. I just think it all kind of overwhelmed him. I think it's just a lot. It's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of, like everybody's doing their own thing and everybody has their rhythm and their routine, and it's a lot. Like that's a lot of star power on the court. Nick Young actually told me, like, I'm like, dude, why don't you shoot the ball? Like, you came here because everybody thought you swaggy P, and like you will never like have a problem shooting the ball. And that was the Warriors' issue. That's why they moved on from Ian Clark, right? They wanted somebody who could knock down that shot, who could come in with that second unit and just get buckets. So it's like, hey man, who could do that? Like, who could come in and just say, man, I don't care, I'm getting buckets. And everybody thought it would be Swaggy P. And then Luke Walton, kind of hustled Steve Kerr a little bit, told him, hey, man, he's getting better on defense, and he tries, and, he's good on defense when he tries. And boom, there you go. You got a guy who's going to go for his no matter what. And, if we get him to play a little bit of defense, like, there you go. That's what we need. And he just was never comfortable. Like, he was never comfortable going for his. So I literally asked him, like, why aren't you shooting? Like, Omri Caspi was another guy. He was supposed to be, they wanted shooting. They had no shooting on the bench. And Caspi wouldn't take shots. Like, he wouldn't even take them. He shot 50%. He just passed them all up. There's something about playing with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson that makes you, like, second guess whether you're the one to take the shot. And Nick Young told me, he's like, man, I got to stop being a punk, and just shoot it. Because in his mind, he's thinking, yeah, I want to shoot this, but man, that's Steph Curry over there, right? And that's Klay Thompson, that's Kevin Durant. Like, really, should I be the one shooting it? And like, man, confidence is everything in the NBA. Like, the moment you have a half of an ounce of a drop in it, like you don't get the purest of your shot, and you don't get the comfort and ease and rhythm that you need to make shots like that. And he just never got it. He never got it because every time you shoot, you gotta make it, because if you didn't, it should have went to the other guys. And I don't think he ever got comfortable with that. And I don't think they knew that it would get to him the way it did. It got to Caspi, and it actually didn't get to Ian Clark this badly. Like, Ian Clark, he would kind of go for his. He got a little comfort, but he also was around the team for a couple of years. To put a guy in that spot, it takes a different breed for you to just play your game when there's 3 Hall of Famers with you, right? And I just don't think he ever got comfortable because these dudes are champions, and the standard is high, and you don't get to mess around, and you better put your work in. Like Nick Young is a dude going home to L.A., and I just don't think he was ever comfortable.
I thought Caspi would be great for them, and they got him at the minimum.
I was sure of it, Zach.
I mean, he looks like a warrior. He cuts, he moves off the ball, he's smart, he shoots like 28-footers. I thought he would be perfect. I'm just completely flabbergasted that it didn't work out to the point that they cut him to make room for Quinn Cook. I just never in a million years would have thought it would go that badly. Nick Young, I do think, was sort of an organizational heat check for them. I just like the players wanted Nick Young. I think they liked the idea of Nick Young. Like, they thought it was kind of cool to have Nick Young and swaggy, and it's going to be fun. And I know some of the players kind of pushed them to sign him. Not that the front office was not, in on the decision, obviously. It just felt like they did, it was like, all right, you guys won a championship, we'll give you what you want. I'm just going to say this. Based on conversations I've had and reports on this, I don't think Swaggy P was Bob Myers' first choice. No, I don't think so either. I think it was like a heat check for them. Like, we can get anybody in here. Who's next? Like, if Dion Waiters were available, we'll get Dion Waiters. And who's like the silliest dude we can get in here? Let's get them. And it didn't work. And they're paying the. I'm fascinated to see if he gets any minutes at all going forward here. I'm glad you brought up. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was like, well, I'm telling you, I keep saying, like I told Nick Young, I'm like, man, I just once you get 20 points in the game once, you're gonna drop 20 in the game. It's gonna happen, and then it's gonna all be like, see, I told you this is what we did it for. I'm telling you.
Well, that's the great thing about playing. That's the great thing about being a role player on a great team is, at some point to win a championship, to get through 4 rounds. I don't care how good you are. You need almost everybody. I mean, there may be 2 guys on the team that are just deep bench guys who are never going to play. But, like, the Heat needed a Mike Miller game here or there. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to need everybody. And if you told me that, they get down 15 tomorrow through whatever crazy set of circumstances, and Steve Kerr just breaks the in case of emergency glass and puts Nick Young out there and he hits 5 threes in a quarter. I mean, we've seen him do it for the Clippers against Memphis all those years ago. He had like 1,000,000 threes in their crazy comeback on the road. Wouldn't surprise me. And then they go on to win the championship. Literally, those 5 threes are worth the whole contract. Just everything else, who cares? Those 5 threes saved your season. And if you like, that scenario is not implausible. It's not. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not like completely off the rails insane.
I'm telling you, I've seen it. I haven't been the biggest fan of the Warriors bench over the last 2 years, maybe even 3. Like, you could just see. I mean, playoffs are different, man. Like, regular season, that stuff works, and I think it's great. Like, you need that bench to get you to the playoffs, but I think that's why they wanted Nick Young. I really think, especially the players, they wanted somebody who could say, man, we're going to sit Steph and KD in the second quarter. We need somebody who's just like, all right, I'm going for mine, right? Like, I'm going to get this. And, they played with a lot of guys who are like, all right, they're situationally good. I remember Mo Spates. Everybody's like, Mo Buckets and Mo Buckets could do one thing. Like, he could pick and pop. You take that away, like, he doesn't have a counter. And so they have a lot of guys like that. And especially like Draymond, who's the ringleader of getting Nick Young, and Kevin Durant was in on it too. They like guys who have a mindset like them. Like, man, look, we're about to go play. We're about to beat the Rockets. Like, you with us on this? You ain't scared, are you? You gonna play ball? You gonna be like, they like those type of guys, and I think they thought Nick Young was one of those guys. I mean, he wore shoes last night. They were Houston Rockets colors, believe it or not. I saw.
Did he really?
Yeah, I was like, so what's up with them shoes? But they were the Gilbert Arenas old school hibachis.
Oh, wow.
So he had those on because he's like, all right, I need to get hot. but obviously he didn't get to use them. But I was like, yeah, those, you might have on the wrong colors tonight. He's like, man, I got to put out the hibachis. But he's trying to find it, right? He's trying to. Man, it's tough. Now it makes me think, who can they get then? Because whoever it is needs to be able to score on that second unit. Like that's the problem. Like that's the one struggle. Now Steve is trying to juggle this now. Who does he sit? How does he get them rest? Because if he sits Steph and KD together, and he likes them together, and they like to be together. Like Klay is not an offensive creator; he's a finisher in that sense. They need an offensive creator. They need somebody to go get a bucket off the bench, and they don't have it. But who's going to do that? Who's got the moxie to come in with 3 All-Stars and Kevin Durant and MVPs and just be like, hey, yeah, I know you're Kevin Durant and you're Steph Curry, but I got this. Like, who's going to do that? And I don't know. I wonder how many guys there are like that out there.
Well, I know they've looked at Jamal Crawford before. That's sort of.
I thought he was the one. Like,
yeah.
I thought he was it. He would have came too. I don't know. You know what? They get on these narratives about what a guy can't do, which is weird because then they sign Nick Young. But Jamal Crawford is not known for his defense, and the Warriors really care about defense. And they're like, he's not going to play D. It's like, man, like you got a bunch of guys who didn't play D, and somehow D.
So Nick Young's trying. He's bodied up Harden and Paul a couple times. Of course, he's fouling them while doing it. But he's had a couple of good defensive possessions. We got to wrap soon, but I want to let's finish here. Let's zoom out. You said the D word about half an hour ago, dynasty, and I know you didn't mean it. You were being like just sort of saying the dominant couple of years, blah blah blah. This is what is at stake for the Warriors, because if they don't win the title this year, having signed Kevin Durant in free agency and just gone 24-3 in the playoffs before this series, that's 2 titles in 4 years. It's hard to say that's disappointing given their organizational history or any team's organizational history, but it's a little disappointing. And 2-4 in the scheme of NBA history is memorable. It's not dynastic, and it's not like a Lakers three-peat or a Bulls three-peat or even a repeat. It's not even a Rockets repeat in the mid-90s. It gets you in. You're a team we'll all remember. We'll all think of fondly. Great team, 73 wins, all that. Couple injuries hurt you, ill-timed injuries, but you're not in 2-4. Doesn't get you into the biggest discussions. Now, obviously, they will bring back this team next year, and they might get 3-5, and that gets you into some interesting places. But this team's going to get expensive. These guys are going to get old. It's not as if they're set up to be the Spurs and be championship contenders for 15 years. I mean, these guys are all approximately 30, all the main guys. They could get another 5-year run of contention out of this, but we'll see how many they end up getting. We'll see what they do to combat this crippling luxury tax bill that's going to hit them at some point. Maybe they don't care with this arena that is literally like Moneybags Arena that's coming up in San Francisco. But it just shows you how hard the league is. Nothing is guaranteed to you in the NBA. I don't care who you sign. I was guilty of it too. We all know the Warriors are going to roll over everybody if they're healthy. Well, guess what? They're not healthy. And guess what else? Another team came on that was built specifically to beat them from roster spot 1 to 12, basically. They got a couple of guys at the end that don't matter in this series. And it's hard. And if you win 2 championships in 4 years and that's where it stops, and I don't think that's going to be the case with them, they're going to be around, obviously, for many, many years being in this series and in this round and championship contenders. I think the odds are very likely they'll get another one and maybe another 2 down the line, but it's not guaranteed. Like, that's the stakes for them because they am I wrong that two titles in 4 years would be disappointing given the talent?
I think this team not winning back-to-back is disappointing. I almost feel like there really is a sharp, hard separation, like pre-KD and post-KD. Like, I think we have to do that.
Yeah.
That team before, like, I know the conversation was about 96 Bulls, but they always felt like more of a Spursian type thing where this thing is going to be stretched out because it was about how they played together. It was about their offense, and it was about, it wasn't really about that overwhelming dominance like Kobe, Shaq, like the Bulls. It was, man, we're going to be in this thing for 10 years, right? Like, and how many titles do we get in that stretch? I think when they got KD, then it became we have the talent to dominate. So them not winning back-to-back championships would be a disappointment because they're good enough to dominate. With that said, though, I kind of think they've already taken themselves out of that conversation. Just even if they win, just with how they've gone about it, they don't look like the dominant team. You know, like Houston looks like a formidable opponent, right? Look like the Warriors are maybe a little bit better, but they're right there. And I don't know. This doesn't feel like the inevitability that it felt like with the Bulls. And I think it's less an indictment on the Warriors and more how we got to understand the league is so different now that those things to win. Can you imagine winning 3 straight? Like, this makes us not appreciate LeBron in many ways because he does have finals losses. But the way the league is and the talent that's out there and just how prepared all these teams are, eventually the league catches up with you. Like, that's just the way it is.
I mean, LeBron, Wade, and Chris Bosh teamed up in their primes, got lost the first finals to Dallas, spanked Oklahoma City, were a Ray Allen miracle. Not miracle, isn't it? Miracle? We're a very weird Game 6 finish away from losing to the Spurs and then lost to the Spurs. Like, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh in their primes were very close to getting 1 championship in 4 years. Now, very close to they got 2. And they repeated. It's hard to do. The league is really hard. And all of that said, I think if this is by the way, the one thing I'll disagree with you is this is linked for me. I don't care how they win it. I don't care if they look bad, go down 3-2, sputter a little bit, and win this series only because Chris Paul gets injured and then beat a good but maybe overmatched Eastern Conference team. I don't care. Winning is winning. If they win, it's a championship to me is a championship because it's that hard to do. So that's where I disagree with you a little bit. But I get
that.
But I do feel like for all the hype and for all the attention and for all the wins and proclamations, they're not going to feel satisfied with 2 and 4, even 5-6 years from now. Now, again, they let me be clear. They may get more, and this whole discussion may look stupid in 5 years and charming. But I think they'll have a feeling of we didn't wring enough out of this.
No question. And you know what's going to always make them feel that way? They were right there for 2016. It wasn't like LeBron against Dallas where at some point you realize they just weren't going to win that series, right? We're just like, yeah, this ain't going to work. But they were right there, like 2 shots. That I think that were, and even in this situation, like you look at the last 2 games that they've lost, I mean, it's 2 shots either way. To be that close and not capitalize, you don't forget those. So they probably need a few more championships just to make up for 2016 because really they should be playing for, oh man, that would be 3 straight. Well, maybe they don't get Kevin Durant. Who knows? But
yeah, that's the thing. They win that one, and KD is in Oklahoma City, and then Cleveland maybe wins last year because the people are sleeping on how good that Cavs team was last year because they lost in 5 in the finals. Anyway, you got to go. You got an actual job to do. If you're not subscribing to The Athletic, the basketball coverage, even if that's the only sport you care about, is unbelievable. And it starts in the Bay Area with you and Tim and now Ethan and everyone else. It's just great stuff covering the team of great interest. And you've been doing it better than anyone for a long time, my friend. So I appreciate you making some time.
Thank you, sir. I can't wait to see you out here on the grind with us. Come West Coast.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll be somewhere. I don't know where, but in a week or so, I'll be somewhere. We'll see. Marcus Thompson, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.